Ole Miss recruiting is starting to heat up, and it comes at a perfect time, just as the prime summer recruiting months are here. In this video, we're talking quarterback flips and a few important names Ole Miss is making a priority. We're going to cover it all today in this video. I got Zach Berry from OM Spirit. But first, before we get going, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. I'd appreciate it. All right, let's bring in Zach Berry. Now, Zach, Ole Miss has 8 commitments so far, headlined by running back Ackland Deer. But one thing they don't have right now is a quarterback. They got 2 big names on the board. Only problem is they're both committed elsewhere. Minor problem in today's recruiting. Let's start with Keelan Russell out of the state of Texas, committed to SMU early. His recruitment has absolutely blown up. Alabama was the most recent to offer. Florida's offered. Texas is sniffing around, hasn't offered yet. But talking to sources, it sounds like the one team everybody's sleeping on is Ole Miss with Keelan Russell. So take us behind the scenes. What's been going on between Ole Miss and Keelan Russell?
Yeah, first of all, mom originally from Mississippi, went to Ole Miss, so there's a ton of familiarity there, but the staff has not let up at all. Rhett Lashley and SMU have done a fantastic job seemingly holding on to Keelan Russell. It's going to be tough, just like you said, the programs you mentioned, everybody's jumping in to the chase now, but I think Ole Miss, it starts with the offense. I think he's intrigued by what the offense brings to his game and kind of what he could learn from Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss Jr. And I think that the opportunity of being in that system, being with Lane Kiffin and playing in the SEC for, all of a sudden a brand that is very nationally known. It seems every time I talk to any recruit, whether it's a 25, a 26, they're all saying the same thing. Like, hey, Ole Miss is a big deal now. We know all the hype in the preseason with college football playoff and the top 10 ranking possibly for week 0. But yeah, I think Keelan Russell is very keen on how he could develop in the system. We've seen what Jackson Dart has become in the system with Lane Kiffin, and I think that that's the most intriguing thing to him right now.
All right, so what's next for his recruitment between Ole Miss and Keelan Russell? Are you expecting him back on campus, or does that still need to be set?
I anticipate at least a game visit at some point. The last time I spoke with him, he was very honest with things. He was very, very open with talking about the teams that are coming after him. And, he told me, quote, Ole Miss has everything that I want, which is a pretty powerful statement. Ole Miss was one of his first offers. I think that means a lot to him as well. He said that it was special to hear from Lane Kiffin and that staff and how from everybody across the board, grad assistants, analysts, the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the coordinator of recruiting strategy, everybody is coming after him and recruiting him. So I know the pull to stay in the Metroplex and play at SMU is going to be tough to overcome. But again, I think that if he continues to take the visits, the portal, Josh, and the NIL era is very different. But if there's still some old school recruiting tendencies that seem to buck their head here and there, and the old adage of follow the visits still holds true to this day, whether it's a high school guy or a portal guy. If he continues to show up in Oxford, I think it gives Ole Miss as good a chance as any to flip him.
All right. Now, speaking of following the visits, that leads us to Duce Knight. He's from Mississippi, went to Nashville, played a season back in Mississippi. In the meantime, he committed to Notre Dame. Duce Knight has said himself that he openly speaks to other staffs, Ole Miss being one of them. What are you hearing in terms of Ole Miss's recruitment with Duce Knight right now?
Yeah, one thing that jumps out to me about Duce is how mature he approaches recruiting. He's been very open not only about who is coming after him, who he's talking to, but he's been very pointed in saying that he's always looking to be respectful of Notre Dame and to, kind of do things the right way. So he's not trying to, dupe anyone or, bop around and sneak visits or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, the Ole Miss pull is there. You mentioned he did a little brief study abroad, if you will, in Nashville, and then opted to go back home to George County. I think that helps Ole Miss. Um, and I think that Ole Miss has as good a shot as any here as well. It's basically 1A, 1B with Keelan Russell and Duce Knight for Ole Miss. They want them both. They can't take them both, but they're going to recruit them as if they're uncommitted. So I think that as long as the communication is, that line is open, and we'll see, if I kind of hesitate to say if and when, but I do think that an official visit will happen somewhere down the road. I know Notre Dame has some no visit
Yeah,
policies
that
and
might
things like
ruffle some
that,
feathers.
but we'll see what Marcus Freeman decides to do there. If Duce Knight does want to take a visit, I think he will. But yeah, I mean, athletic freak. That's I think the excitement around his game and what he can be, because I think he's just scratching the surface. I know talked with Cody Belair and Charles Power about him, and I mean they rave about the skill set and the combine numbers, but I think that if he stays on this path, very special talent. So wherever he lands, I anticipate him having a good college career, and it could be Ole Miss by the end of the day.
If I told you, hey, Zach, 7 months from now, Ole Miss is going to sign one of these two quarterbacks, they will sign one of these two, who would you think it would be?
I thought about that earlier today. Man, it's tough. I lean Duce Knight because of the ties to the state of Mississippi. I think Keelan Russell. If you made me pick right now out of the two, I'd say Duce Knight, and I'd say Keelan Russell sticks with SMU.
Okay.
I think that being a Duncanville guy, being a Texas guy, and Brett Lashley and that staff have done a phenomenal job now in the Power Four. That move that SMU made, I think that is a big plus for them in checking boxes. But I think if you're looking at Ole Miss, I think it's Duce Knight. I think it's a all hands on deck effort there as well.
Yeah.
The entire staff. I think the attention to detail by Lane Kiffin in the recruitment is big. And if you made me pick, I would say Duce Knight.
All right, let's hit on a couple other key names that I know Ole Miss fans are going to want to hear about. Let's start with Caleb Cunningham, the number 3 wide receiver in America from Ackerman, Mississippi. Now, we know he's been trending heavily to Mississippi State on the recruiting prediction machine, but has Ole Miss made any headway this offseason, and when's the next time you think he's going to be on campus?
I think they have. Recently went to see him at his spring game, had a couple monster catches there. I think that the initial push from Mississippi State early, basically as soon as Jeff Lebby got the job, he was on the phone, he was going to visit him. But Ole Miss has not shied away, and they're not going to back down. I think the big thing here, Josh, is when games start in the fall, I think being able to give a tangible example of, hey, this is what we think you can be in this offense. Hey, look at Trey Harris here. This is what we think you could be. I think that that's going to be big. Kind of tying it in back to Duce Knight. I know he was big on that. He wants to see games. He wants to see what offenses look like. I think Caleb Cunningham could be in that same boat. I talked to him earlier this spring, and he said, hey, Ole Miss is the place to go if you're a receiver and you want to go to the NFL. Ole Miss now, AJ Brown, Ole Miss alum, highest paid wide receiver in the league. You've got DK Metcalf. I think that is something that really intrigues him, and he likes that about Ole Miss, and he really hit it off with new wide receivers coach George McDonald. So I think that once games get going and there is something to compare with Ole Miss and Mississippi State, Jeff Lebby's going to have a good offense, but will the results be there? Obviously we know about the hype and what Ole Miss is expected to be this fall. I think once those games start happening and once Jackson Dart starts throwing it around the yard a bit, I think that's when things might shift. But yeah, Ole Miss is definitely in it. That's the people that I've talked to in Mississippi. That's what they keep saying is, hey, we feel good about where we're at. We like the we like the spot that Ole Miss is at, or, high school coaches run the area. Hey, Ole Miss coaches are always here. They're always talking to them. So I think that that's big is, hey, we're just going to keep recruiting you no matter what the outside noise is. But yeah, no doubt about it. Mississippi State has the upper hand right now. But yeah, again, I think when things kick off in September, I think that's when something might change.
Yeah, when that recruitment starts to heat up. All right, one recruitment that has been hot in Ole Miss's favor has been Henry Fuku from Fort Worth, Texas. But now Ohio State is starting to pick up ground. Is Ole Miss slipping, or do you still like where they stand for Fuku?
It's pretty early for him. When I talked to him after his visit, he was, hey, like, I'm not in any rush. I want to, see what everyone has to offer me. But yeah, he hit it off with offensive line coach John Garrison. The big thing, he kept using the word plan, and that stuck out to me. He said, hey, they've got a plan for me. They laid out what that plan is. He thinks that he can be developed at Ole Miss. That was another word that he used a lot. And just, being coached by the best, had high praise for Lane Kiffin and the rest of the staff, but also the work Ole Miss did in the portal on the offensive line got his attention. And he thinks, hey, Ole Miss is going to continue to bring in top talent, and I'll be able to, he used the phrase, quote, coach by the best and play with the best. So I think that that's a big thing for him. Maybe a bit of a visit bump after he went to Oxford, but he was buzzing about Ole Miss. And I think that plan that Garrison and Ole Miss has for him certainly has his attention early on.
All right. Well, Ole Miss fans, talk to me. Who is your top QB target in 2025? Is it Keelan Russell? Is it Duce Knight? Comment section below. Or do you have another quarterback that's off of our board? Let me know. Well, you've made it to the end of today's video, but there's hundreds more videos on the On3 Recruits channel for you to check out. And also, while you're here, hit subscribe.